Hello everyone, it's Simmuz here and welcome to a brand new video. In this video, I want to talk about kits, why they are so controversial in the community and which of the kits we got so far work and which don't. Before jumping into it, don't forget to leave a like to the video and subscribe to my channel, it really helps me out. Kits are the latest type of DLC that was introduced to The Sims 4 in 2021. As of today, there are 19 kits that have been released for the game, 8 focused on create a Sims content, 10 focused on build and buy items, and 1 strictly gameplay kit. Kits have been met with a somewhat divided response from the community at release, with many complaining about this new type of DLC, stating that the game did not need any new content, while others were interested to see what they would bring. It's also important to note that the price point that EA established for the kits was also pretty controversial. $5 is half the price of stuff packs, which were the smallest add-ons at that point for the game, but kits definitely added less content while focusing only on create a sim or furniture, when stuff packs added both and some gameplay as well. What's been also brought up through the almost 2 full years of kit releases is that because of the lack of stuff pack releases lately, it really seems that the addition of this new DLC basically killed them off. The last stuff pack that was released for The Sims 4 was Paranormal in January 2021. And the first batch of kits was announced right after and released in March of the same year. Considering that creating a kit takes less time and resources than creating a stuff pack, with less content needed to be added and the ability of splitting up content in a cast pack and a build and buy pack, it's fair for the consumers to think and be convinced that EA pivoted towards kits just to make more money for the same amount of items. Many of the kits that have been released through the years have also been met by controversy because of the content they added or for being lackluster one way or another. Firstly, and most notably, one of the first kits to be released and the only gameplay focused one, Bust the Dust, was immediately the center of backlash when the new feature added wouldn't work and break the game, so badly in fact that the team only managed to fix it and make it adequately functional a couple months ago. The second kit to end up in the eye of an online storm was the Industrial Loft kit, which had a specific window in its promotional image that wasn't actually present in the pack. The backlash from the community was so big that the team ended up patching it later on. Another kit that was met with immediate backlash is the Modern Menswear kit, which was most definitely released at the worst time. The community was asking for more basic clothes for male Sims, and when the pack was announced, many thought it would solve the issue. But since it was a collaboration with the fashion designer Stefan Cook, and this collaboration wasn't even well promoted by EA or the Sims team, players really criticized it for its avant-garde look at men fashion, when the base game was lacking in classic, basic pieces. I still believe that if this kit came with the small SDX patch for basic male clothes, it would have been much more well received. More recently, just this January, the new bathroom clutter kit came under fire because of the quality of the textures and polys in the new items, especially the new hairdryer, which has many players complaining about the quality of kits, even more so when you compare the amount of items you get for the price tag with the other kinds of DLCs that exist for The Sims 4. We can say that kits have had a pretty rocky introduction to the game, and that the community's response hasn't always been what the developers and EA probably hoped for. In order to find out which of the kits released so far the community enjoys and which the community dislikes, I asked on Twitter to fill out a questionnaire where people could vote for each kit with a number from 1 to 5, 1 being bad and 5 being amazing, and also a don't own option for people that don't own a pack or don't have any opinions on it, and I found some interesting information. Before revealing the numbers, this questionnaire was filled by more than 100 people, which of course is not the biggest sample size, but I still think shows some useful data. The most disliked kit is actually the Modern Menswear kit, with an average score of 2.19 out of 5, followed closely by Bust the Dust, with 2.30 out of 5, the Throwback Fit kit with 2.92 out of 5, and finally the Carnival Streetwear kit with 2.96 out of 5. It's also interesting to note that while the Modern Menswear kit has a lower score, only 18 people gave it a 1, while Bust the Dust was scored a 1 by 23 players, meaning it's definitely a more divisive kit in the community. As for the most liked kits, the community voted the Little Campers kits the highest, with an average score of 4.30 out of 5, with also the most people scoring at a 5 with 40, followed closely by the Everyday Clutter kit at 4.22 out of 5, the Pastel Pop kit at 4.02 out of 5, and Instant Arrivals at 3.99 out of 5. The rest of the kits average between a 3.33 for the Country Kitchen kit and a 3.96 for the Blooming Rums kit. The average score for kits is 3.51 out of 5, which is honestly pretty good, but it makes sense considering most of the kits do have a score above 3. It's also pretty interesting to note that there's a difference on how packs are received when separating the kits according to their content for Create a Sims or Build and Buy. There are 10 kits for Build and Buy that have an average score of 3.77, while Cast kits have an average score of 3.46. That's because 3 out of the 4 of the worst rated packs are all Create a Sims kits, with the worst rated Build and Buy kit being Country Kitchen at a 3.33 out of 5. It's also to note that on average, Build and Buy kits are owned by more people, with an average of only 22 players that don't own a pack, while when we look at Cast kits that are not owned, the average is 37 players. This could also show a bias that the community has towards Cast kits, or at least the part of the community I interviewed, since they tend to prefer Build and Buy kits. But putting aside the numbers, what do I think about kits? I don't really think kits were a necessary addition to the already full roster of DLCs for The Sims 4, but since they are clearly here to stay, I definitely believe they could be better. Firstly, for the price point set, they should always be very polished and well made, without the issues we've seen of missing content, stuff not working, or underwhelming textures. But I think there's another major issue that the team has to fix completely before I can start completely accepting kits into my game: the topic they choose to focus on. I think kits, being small tidbits of content, should be catering to specific and smaller niche concepts than what we've gotten so far. For example, the Blooming Rum kit, while very well made, is too broad of a concept, just plants. It should have focused on a specific type of potted plants, like maybe tropical plants, or super modern, or hanging vases, or weird alien flowers. The issue with the topic just being plants makes the pack feel unfinished, incomplete, just because it could have given us something more, but it didn't. Another pack with the same issue is the Moonlight Chic kit, that just adds cool outfits that are Parisian inspired without really having a core concept or direction, and ends up being forgettable. Same can be said for the Throwback Fit kit, which doesn't really cater to any specific decade of fashion, just 80s, 90s and even 2000 inspired, vaguely sporty clothes. There's also an issue when the concept that they use in a kit is supposed to patch the lack of the same item in the base game. That's what happened partly with the Modern Menswear kit, which people thought would fill the gap of classic and basic male clothes in game, and when that didn't happen, it wasn't well received. As well as Blooming Rums coming out when people were asking for more plants in the game. I think kits could be an interesting type of DLC if they are used by the team to tackle very niche topics and concepts that they wouldn't otherwise explore, like a Cast kit all about goth fashion, or office wear, or boho outfits, or inspired by a specific decade. Some kits that already do that correctly are Ancient Arrivals, the Carnival Streetwear, and the Modern Menswear kit. As for Build and Buy, we could get specific style of furniture that we don't yet have in game, like a Japandi kit or Art Deco inspired pack, like they did with the Industrial Loft kit and Decor to the Max. And for items, instead of focusing on broader ideas like plants, they could do office clutter or small kitchen devices in a specific style. For example, I think they did a very good job with some of the niche concept like the Pastel Pop kit, Decor to the Max, and the Little Campers kit, which shows me that when kits are used to fulfill a smaller interest instead of trying to fill in a bigger gap in the base game, they work so much better. I'm still interested to see the direction the team will take with kits, and I also can definitely tell they're slowly improving in the development of this new type of packs, and then can also be seen by the scoring system of kits that I got from the questionnaire. The most disliked kits were released earlier, while the latest kits all have a higher score. I guess the team is still finding their footing in the creation process of kits, so hopefully with the rest of 2023 and the upcoming months we'll see a bigger improvement. So, what are your thoughts about kits? Do you think this type of DLC would benefit from nature or wider concepts? And what are you expecting from the kits that we'll be getting in 2023? Thank you so much for watching, and bye bye.